Ken.
Megan.
Welcome back.
Good to be here.
Again.
I know.
Is this the first podcast that's been your second time in a row?
It is.
Yeah. And for both of us, it is the first podcast that we are on video.
How exciting.
Is really exciting. Thank you to Red Trucks for making this happen. Hi guys. This is what, you've seen us in pictures, but this is what we look like when we're actually talking.
Yeah.
And so we have the capability to have our podcast on video now, which is super exciting. So there'll be more places for you to listen/watch. So you can watch on YouTube now. We have a YouTube channel, Historic Downtown Snohomish Association. It's just our name, easy to find. And we'll have them on our website too. This first podcast today was with Senator John Lovick.
Very exciting.
Yeah. So he's also gets to be our first video guest. Lucky John.
Yeah. Our inaugural video.
Yeah. So we talked about a lot with John.
We did. And I think that not only did we learn some things, but I also think that he learned some things from us.
Yeah.
That he will take back to the state legislature. And maybe there's an opportunity for us to advocate for our small businesses in ways that we didn't really anticipate going into this podcast.
Yeah, and I think you just touched on two really important things there. One, John says during the interview that he doesn't claim to know everything, and you never will. Like, there's just too many things going on. But he appreciates the conversation, and he does like learning, and he will take that into consideration the next time it comes up, or if there's a better connection for us, he's totally good for his word to make those things happen. Secondly, the importance of being the one to advocate. You know, it's like I inherently know that, but hearing him talk about that, you can't just wait for it to happen, you know? Like, we all participate in the things that are important to us that we want to see for our communities. And part of your elected officials' jobs is to be available, but for you to reach out and bring those things. No one's going to do it for you. No one's going to do it for you. Yeah. But overall, it was really wonderful to talk to him. It was educational.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably another open door. So I'm excited about that.
Me too.
Yeah. So everybody enjoy video and audio content now of Snohomish Storytellers. And this is also volume 4, chapter 1. So we're in I can't believe it. We're in our 4th season of this. We like to call them volumes, keeping in the storytelling theme. So welcome to the new era and enjoy this first episode.
And like.
And subscribe.
There we go. We did it.
You, Ken.
You're welcome.
Boom, boom, boom.
Megan?
Ken, here you are again.
I know. Making a habit out of this. Last time I said that Sheila could not be replaced, but I'm still on that. You can't be replaced, Sheila. But
today we have a really special guest that I'm so excited about. Senator John Lovick. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we're so glad you could fit us in. I was so happy to receive your text the other day when you're like, I'm going to be in Snohomish. How about Monday? I was like, we'll make it work. So thank you.
I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Ken, you have the first question for John this morning.
I do. Nice to have you here, by the way. So my first question is, how long have you been serving as a senator? And what made you decide this was a path that you wanted to pursue?
So this is my 4th year as a senator, and I was appointed in late 2020 when then Senator Hobbs was appointed Secretary of State. An opening came up, and I just put my name in and got the votes, and the Snohomish County Council appointed me, and so it's been great.
You've enjoyed it?
I've absolutely enjoyed it. Yeah. I served in the House for, I believe, 14 years.
Oh, wow.
And I always tell people, and this is kind of a joke, I always tell people that serving in the House and the Senate is exactly the same thing, just different.
Actually, that leads right into my next question. I was wondering, could you just give us kind of a state government 101?
Yeah.
And how does your role fit in?
Yeah.
And how does that affect our district, specifically us, Snohomish, being within that district?
Yeah. First of all, I'm going to say serving in the 44th district is one of the absolute joys of my life. Having the city of Snohomish in the 44th district is just wonderful. So, there are 147 of us, 49 senators and 98 representatives, and of course the governor. we're there to set policy. Anything you pass in the Senate gets sent to the House, and if the House passes it and everything is okay, the governor will end up signing it. I served in the House for many years, and I absolutely loved it. Serving in the Senate is also something that I love. And I always jokingly tell people that it's the same thing, just different.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is there are fewer senators than there are House members. And if you typically get most of the things that you sponsor up for a vote, and if you get it through, then you got to fight that battle to get it passed in the House. But as far as how does Snohomish has great leadership. I was speaking to the council last week, and I told them that this is just one of those cities that you just feel good every time I cross that bridge, every time I come up one of the back roads and step into Snohomish. You feel warm, wonderful, and welcoming. So I work very, very hard to make sure that the people in Snohomish County are served well. There are obviously 3 members, a senator, and 2 representatives. And we work very, very hard for this city, as we do for all of our cities that we serve. But this is just one of those wonderful cities that you love representing.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that. We appreciate you.
And I mean that sincerely.
And what is it that makes the 44th district unique when compared to other districts in the area or in the state?
So we better brag about our districts or we won't be there long. We all better brag about the people in our districts. And what I always like to tell people, Ken, is I tell them that it's occasionally like they might not know you, but you better do your absolute best to know them. And that's what we try to do in the 44th district. You walk around cities, you walk around in the unincorporated areas, and it's just neat because people will talk to you. In my case, I love the fact that people will recognize me. I'll walk around at a store with a shopping bag or shopping cart, and it's nice to have them recognize you. But at the same time, it's not, I don't get embarrassed to say, I can't remember your name. Can you tell me your name? And then at that point, I know them. And you have to make sure that you work very, very hard to make sure that they know you, but do your absolute best to get to know them. And that's what's unique about serving in the 44th district. People take the time to talk to you. I always say this, and it's not things that people always like to hear. It's not the other Washington. It's this Washington. It's this district. It's the 44th district, the best district in the state.
It really is the best district in the state.
Is.
Are there any things that stand out that really, in your mind, make the 44th the best district?
A lot of things. I think you have to start with the people. And I think you start with friendly people in the district. I've gone door to door so many times in the course of running for a variety of positions in this area. It just comes down to great people in this district.
We really do.
Oh, yeah, and I mean that sincerely. I'm not saying it. I've knocked on doors for other candidates, and you always, for some reason, just always feel welcome. Not everybody wants you to come to their house. Not everybody wants to talk to you, and in the environment that we're in. But if you work it, if you really take the time to talk to people, I think it's just a special district. I've represented it for a lot of years and absolutely love it. And that's why I keep doing it.
So we have Snohomish, obviously, is in the 44th district, and then Mill Creek. What are some of the other main cities or towns?
So those are the only 2 cities. A little bit of Everett. And when I'm talking about getting north on the Bothell-Everett Highway out by the Costco store, a little bit of Everett is in the 44th district. But unincorporated Bothell, and when I'm talking unincorporated Bothell, I'm talking about going south of 180th and for the most part, east of 35th down to the city limits. I think maybe a little bit of Bothell, but I don't think very much of the city of Bothell is in the 44th.
Is all of unincorporated Snohomish in the 44th? You know?
No, not all of it.
Okay.
There are areas that are not in the 44th. When you start getting out east of Highway 2 and up in that area there, I can't remember, the Fales Downs Road and places like that. That's not in the 44th.
Okay, so like Monroe is not
Monroe
part
is
of it.
not.
Okay. Yeah,
Monroe
I was looking at the district boundaries a little bit this morning, and I was like, I get in my head Snohomish County.
Yeah.
And then when you get into legislative districts, it's quite different.
It is.
It's kind of these little pocket areas.
Monroe would be in the 12th district, I believe, because they came over Stevens Pass, and then you get just to the north and east of Snohomish, you're talking the 39th district. So it's, and then you have Some parts of Snohomish would be in the 1st district, which would be Bothell, Kenmore,
Yeah.
and places like that.
So when you're considering the 2 cities essentially that you have in your district, which like you said is Mill Creek and Snohomish,
Mhm.
how do those compare? And when you're going in to do your work and you're, sponsoring bills or kind of talking about things that are going to affect your district, what are some of those similarities and differences that you have to take into account?
I think similarities are, for example, I live in Mill Creek. I've lived there for 33 years. A great, great, great city. Snohomish is a great, great, great city. We have some great cities in Snohomish County. And what I do is I try to say my approach to everything is to make sure that I'm working on things that the people in my district are interested in. We always say this in Olympia, that good policy is good politics. You find out what are the things that are important. I go to city council meetings and I find out that these are the things that are important to them. We talk about things that are, growth management and all of those things. We don't deal with a lot of those things in Olympia, but you also know that when I go back to Olympia, I have to be able to say, this is what the people in my cities are telling me. So that's what we work on.
Gotcha. So Snohomish, we are a designated Main Street community.
Yes.
Do you know much about Main Street at all? Does that come up in Olympia at all?
It doesn't
we go
come up.
advocate to you folks, but I don't know how much of it actually spiders through the network.
That's a great question. You advocate well, and that's what makes a big difference in Olympia with what we do. Because what I like to do is we sit in caucuses, this big room, and you work on policies. And I love to be able to say, well, this is what my mayor talked to me about. This is what my city council member talked to me about. And so I come to as many events as I can in the cities. For example, I tell people this, and I played the trombone in high school, so I'm not here to toot my own horn, so to speak. But, I had the privilege of marching in several parades here. I thought marching in the Pride Parade was just absolutely delightful. Just the warm and welcoming that the city showed toward that community. It's just those things that they do in these cities. And Mill Creek does the same thing with some of its honoring the veterans. And it's just those wonderful things that you do. And people know you because they know these are cities that you represent, and they know some of the activities that take place in your cities.
Yeah. Snohomish and Mill Creek are interesting comparisons because Mill Creek, they have their town center, but they don't really have a main street, literally, a physical main street.
I would say the street is actually Main Street.
But they don't have a designated little, Main Street gathering space.
Right.
I'm sure they did at one point.
Yep.
Versus, Snohomish, we have our historic downtown.
Yep.
We have First Street. And part of the qualifications to be a designated Main Street community is that you have to have, that basically geographical area that is 50% or more designated historic.
Sure. Okay.
And then there's, an affiliation you can have, and then there's accredited. So when you're an affiliate, which is what Snohomish has been for many, many years, this is kind of the standard there. And then there's other standards you have to meet to become an accredited organization and accredited community, which is what we achieved in 2024. So we're super excited about that. But one of the things that comes along with that is the Main Street Tax Credit Incentive Program. And that's housed under the Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation within the Washington State Main Street Program. There's this whole state-funded thing that allows people to redistribute their B&O taxes directly into their Main Street community. So that's the sort of thing that I was able to go talk to April Berg about when I was there in January. Thankfully, our schedules aligned. I was never able to talk to, but I was like, you know what? I talk to John all the time. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
To us, it's $5 million a year that the state designates towards Main Street programs that all 40 of us can share, 40 of us within Washington State. But that to us is such an important advocacy. How much do you even hear anything like that being talked about? How does stuff like that come up?
People who, this is the way that the process works. People who have the expertise in that particular area, it will come up and then they'll brief us on it. For example, 147 of us, not all of us can have an expertise in every single issue, but the person for example, I'm sure if you talk with Rep. Berg, she's probably knowledgeable of this. I'm not totally knowledgeable of what you're talking about, but when members bring these things to us, we all understand it because they explain it exceptionally well. For example, my expertise is in public safety. You'll hear me talk about things like getting more cops on the streets. But I'm sure they come up. And do we spend a lot of time discussing them? Honestly, I probably don't. But that's why the process works so well, because we have 147 of us, and people talk with members about different things down there. And so it balances out.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder, what's that sort of trickle effect, to where there's, like I said, there's 40 Main Street communities within Washington State. This is all equally important to us because it helps fund our programs. And so when there's, federal budget cuts coming down and there's budgets that are going on at the state and these start to affect these programs, then those directors of the actual Washington State Main Street will go to their legislators and start petitioning. But sometimes they ask us to do the same thing. And to us, it's like, and I understand what you're saying, even as a council person, I learned really quickly, I need to just pick the things that I'm familiar with, that I'm passionate about, and trust the other 6 to do the same thing.
Yep.
And because otherwise your brain's going to explode. There's just too much to track. And that's just on the city level. But I always wonder, where are these things actually being decided upon? Or is it just kind of like wrapped up into certain things, into certain budget, packages, into where it's not even on a radar,
So no way, and don't feel that it's not on the radar. There are people, chairs of committees. They will come to us with certain things, and there are 30 of us in our caucus. I can guarantee you, when a person is talking about healthcare, I don't understand everything that they're talking about.
Yeah.
When they're talking education, I have a better understanding. But when they're talking transportation, public safety, and then when I'm talking transportation, public safety, so it all balances out. We literally will turn to the person and say, brief us on this, brief us on that. And we get a briefing on it. And we walk out. And if it's if it's in the budget for us to vote on, we vote on. We don't cross that item out and say, well, I don't know anything about this, so I'm not going to vote for it. No, it really balances out.
But it sounds like somebody at kind of the grassroots ground level is the one who has to go in the first place and advocate to that connection that they have.
Advocacy is exactly how you get things done in the process. That's the way it works out. I went to Olympia a few times before I was a legislator, and you just simply find that member and talk with him or her about what your issues are, and then they move it to the next person. But it's a process that works very, very well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a great question, and thank you so very, very much for explaining it to me.
I asked direct questions.
I think it's great.
So just thinking about the 2 cities that are in the district, and not just, Snohomish and Mill Creek, but there's Monroe, there's Bothell, there's Lake Stevens, all in this area. Snohomish has about 10,000 residents in our city. But last year, we drew in over 2 million visitors into this small space, into our historic district, which makes Snohomish really a destination tourist location. And far more than really the other, cities in the area. And we love our downtown. And so we're curious, from a tourism perspective, what resources are you aware of, or what role can the state play in enhancing and promoting Snohomish as really a tourist destination for people near and far?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ken. And, I probably won't answer it the exact way you asked the great question, but I think what we have to do is we have to keep promoting the beauty that is every city in our state. I come here a lot myself, and I know what it's like. I know what it feels like. And I think as we walk away and talk about it, I think the state should play the role. I think it's about how I should do it and how the next person should do it. And when people talk about things that they do, I know my neighbors have shared with me that they come to the city. You talk about 2 million people. That surprises me. I'm surprised it's not even more, because every time I come, just driving here today, driving up First Street, not a parking spot to be seen, a parking spot to be seen, but they were all occupied. That means people are coming.
It's a good problem to have.
And I also noticed when I was here for Pride Day, it was first week of June, I believe it was.
Yep.
I parked literally 5 city blocks away and walked down, but I saw the spirit that was this city. And I go back, and when I can talk about those things, I want to talk about those great things that I'm experiencing when I come. And other people say the same thing.
So we want to pivot a little bit from these topics to the legislative session and kind of the legislative process. And there's been a lot of talk about the budget shortfall. And when you and the other representatives were at City Council last week, there was some explanation about the budget shortfall and over what period of time that is. And that was enlightening for me. And so maybe you could just give a little bit of clarity for all those who are listening or watching.
So what I shared with City Council was that when we showed up, even before we showed up, it was very stressful because we knew we were going to have some very, very difficult decisions to make. We had a major budget shortfall. And, the governor started out, a great guy. He started out basically with an understanding that it was going to be an all cuts budget. We were just going to cut. People will say you can't tax your way out of a problem. And I don't think at the same time you can cut your way out of a problem. So you can't tax your way out and you can't cut your way out. And we just had to make some difficult decisions. And I said that every second of every minute of every hour of every day was the most stressful time I've ever spent in Olympia, because we were having people come to us with needs, because people come to you and advocate for things, and they would come to us and advocate for things, and we knew we couldn't do them. We just knew we had to close certain facilities, like the Rainier facility. We knew that those were difficult decisions. So, I walked away many times with tears in my eyes because I just knew this is not what you want to do, but sometimes you have to play the hand you dealt. And the hand that we were dealt was that it was just a tough budget year. It's going to get better. And that's one of the reasons that I always tell people, we go back every year because the things that we addressed them to the extent that we could in this budget. But then when we go back, see where we fell short. And so that's what it's all about. I had a former speaker tell me once, Speaker Chop, bless his heart, he said the easy stuff was done last year. So when you're in Olympia, all of the easy stuff, and he didn't say stuff, but you understand what I'm saying. I'm cleaning it up a little bit. But he said the easy stuff was all done last year. The hard stuff is what we have to do now. So that's the process we go through.
Got it. And the harder stuff will be next year. The
harder stuff will be next year. But we're going to get it done. Not everybody's going to be pleased with everything that we do, but we are there to serve the public. And if you just simply try to do things that everybody's going to like, you're in the wrong business. You're not going to please everybody all the time.
No.
Amen.
And the shortfall, that's really over 4 years,
yes,
right?
Yes, it is over 4 years, right.
So it's not an annual shortfall. It's just the way that the state has to look at its budget.
Yep.
So I'm a small business owner downtown, and I enjoy that. I love it. But the BLS data suggests that Washington State has a nearly 41% of businesses who fail in their first year, compared with 23% nationally. So why do you think that is, that businesses struggle so much in their first year in this state?
Well, Ken, that's another great question. And I wish I knew the answer, because I've seen the same data. I've heard people talk about the same thing. I've analyzed to the extent that I could, because I see small businesses start up, and then I see them travel around the state quite a bit. I don't know the answer to that. I know I was planning to meet some friends at a restaurant in Seattle. I just happened to be listening to a radio talk show. But I was just listening to a person who had a business there, and he pretty much said, you just have to work very, very hard. There's no margin, the profit margin in his business. I think he said 2%, which is pretty low profit margin.
Yeah.
But he just simply said that you just have to go every single day, work very, very hard. Obviously, you can't have a bad day. He said every day has to be a good day. You have to do everything you can to please those customers, because it's those customers, return customers that you want to help make your business successful. So I just don't know what the answer is. I've never been a small business owner. I just admire the work that all of you do. I know how difficult it has to be. But to answer the question, I don't know. Yes. Maybe you could tell me.
I could give you some ideas. Our downtown is built really on the back of small business owners.
Yep.
We don't have really a single store within our district that's not a small business.
That's right.
And there are hardships just simply in being a sole proprietor, owner-operator. And you don't have really anyone to share that burden with. So whereas corporations or big box stores, they can hire staff that can work that store 7 days a week, all sorts of hours. When you're a sole proprietor, you'll burn out quickly. And I think that that's one of the reasons why businesses fail at such a high rate that first year, is because the margins are so low that you can't hire staff. You don't have enough of a nest egg to do that. And so you are, really burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, one of the reasons. I do think, and we'll get into this a little bit later, the tax structure for small businesses is really hard.
You could just get into that now if you want.
Sure. So the B&O tax, as a state without an income tax, the B&O tax is one of the ways that the state can raise revenue. And it's a regressive tax. There are plenty of months in the year when I haven't made any profit just because of the nature of my business. But I still have to pay that B&O tax because it's based on revenue.
Yeah.
It's not based on profit. So, inflation has caused the costs of goods to increase for all of us. So our margins have shrunk, but the B&O tax is still there. It's the same percentage. So that eats into that margin, makes it even tighter. And this past session, the B&O tax was raised. I think that goes into effect in 2027, maybe. So I'm just curious if there's been any discussion at the legislature about the impact this has on small businesses and, when they're starting, if there's any type of grace period.
So I'll tell you, I remember the debate. I remember having discussions. I can't talk about what we discussed in caucus, but I certainly remember the floor debates on the B&O. And, I don't want anybody listening to this podcast to think that some of those decisions that we had to make were easy decisions. Because people come to my office all the time. My office is about the size of the studio. And they come in and they share issues with me. And they're just tough decisions that we have to make. And obviously, hopes and prayers don't solve your issues. But we just hope that the economy will continue to improve and that we will do the things that where it used to be that this was one of the top states that people wanted to move to, the people will keep moving here and that your business will improve. And that's what we hope for. But don't think that we go in making these decisions, cheering and high-fiving each other. We don't. The decisions are not easy decisions that we have to make. But at the same time, we know saying that doesn't help your business at all. Doesn't put more money in your pocket or have you hire more people to do the work that you do.
And maybe I'll just plant the seed that in the future, when this topic is brought up, there can be a synthesis of that BLS data with the B&O tax. And maybe there's an opportunity to say, for the first year a business is in operation, the B&O tax rate will be, something less than it is for a more established business. Because it takes about 3 years to really establish.
Right. Those are the type of kind of things that I would like to sit down with our budget people. I'm not on the budget team. I like to sit down with our budget people and have a conversation about it because, we don't get anything done unless we've tried it. And not everything that's mentioned is tried, but we have to at least have a conversation about it before it's done.
Yeah, it definitely is a cycle that has to both feed into each other because, I'm guessing, like you're saying, so many tough decisions have to be made. So if there's an increase to something like a B&O tax, it's because the revenue's needed. And that's needed to manage all of the things that the state has to manage, which in turn are services that are delivered to the people of the state. And at the same time, if businesses can't get past their first year, then you don't have those businesses to collect the B&O tax from. So it's like, how do you find that perfect balance? The idea you suggested, Ken, is a really good one. And also just to kind of shed a little bit more light. And I'm also, as I'm hearing you say this and some of the things you're saying, I know that HDSA, Historic Downtown Snohomish Association, us, that we're important. And I know that main streets are important. And sometimes when I just put that lens on a discussion like this, you realize just how important, because you were saying businesses, if they want to succeed, they got to go in and work really hard. And how can you do that on your own without support? I don't know that you can. And a main street community like ours, we're here to support. We're here to provide extra resources to give workshops to help understand trends, to do events, to hopefully, we're working on getting some grants, but at least have access to grants that already exist to bring some additional funding into your business so that you aren't just showing up and, relying on pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, because you can only work so hard.
Absolutely.
And I think you kind of have to come at it from that community angle, which is what I think small towns are so good at. And also supporting within your small town and kind of creating that little, mini ecosystem so that you're not always just relying on tourists, and it has to be all the things.
I've heard this, and I know you guys have probably said it many times, small business is the backbone of our economy. And I think having these conversations, it's certainly going to help me, because what Ken talked about, I've not heard anybody say that before. Maybe they said it to someone on other committees, but I'd not heard that approach to anything. And I welcome you to reach out and at least let's have the conversation, because if we don't at least talk about these things, people might be watching this video or listening to this saying, what? But who knows if we shouldn't try what you talked about the first year. If it doesn't work, give them the first year.
Happy to advocate for that.
Yeah.
We have some infrastructure questions for you as well.
Yes.
I see here, Ken, your notes about Washington being ranked the 7th best state for infrastructure.
That's right.
However, stormwater, wastewater systems, things like that are aging. So you guys have, again, had sort of this difficult year of looking at making budget cuts. How are you planning for paying for those very costly things as they're coming down the line?
We passed the transportation budget this year. I think it was right at $16 billion. And there is just so much work that we have to do. We have a ferry system that's failing. We have a road system. The maintenance is just probably $8 to $10 billion. And obviously, we're going to have to pay for those things. You drive around any freeway, any highway, you're going to see potholes. We're looking to address a lot of those issues, but it's just, we're going to have to pay for them. Our ferry system is, you probably saw that the governor just approved building the ferries in the company in Florida. The fleet needs a lot of work. Our roads are in pretty bad shape. There will be no easy things to do for the next few years in our state, but we have to get it done.
How does the state partner with cities, where cities have infrastructure programs, projects that they need to do? And two things that I want to touch on. One, we have the First Street Master Plan coming up, and we're in the planning phase of that right now. But eventually this huge infrastructure project has to be done where we're replacing sewer lines, water lines, all sorts of things. And our downtown district will be looking different at the end of it.
Right.
But we also have, that's more of an internal city thing. Where's the partnership with the state on something like that? In addition, we have the Avenue D bridge that is owned by the state.
Yeah.
And apparently we own the pavement on the top. But that is a bridge that really needs some attention. It's super duper old and is actually getting to the point where it's unsafe. And I know there's a lot of advocacy from our city leaders and staff to try to get that done. But in that situation, your hands are kind of tied. We can't even replace the bridge if we wanted to.
Yeah. So it's a great question. And it's interesting that I had a meeting with staff last week, and I drove over the bridge and then I drove under the bridge. I felt better driving over it than I did driving under it, because I was told that the asphalt and bricks and stuff were falling down.
Yeah.
And so I was a little nervous. And you have to know, I know this area very, very well. I was a state trooper for 31 years and I patrolled this area for a long time. And when I look at that bridge, it's almost embarrassing. Particularly when I'm driving under, somebody else was driving, and I looked up and I said, get out of here as fast as you can.
Speed up a little bit.
We just have to keep advocating for projects, for programs. I am the vice chair of the Senate Transportation Committee. I serve with Senator Leas, and I am actually going to bring the Majority Leader, Senator Peterson, out Thursday. We're going to just walk through the city. So that'll give me kind of a leg up to show him these are the things that I'm talking with you about. These are the things that I'm advocating for in caucus, and he'll get to see them. I'll drive him over the bridge, and he'll be in the car when I drive under the bridge. So those are the things we have to do. We'll get some boots on the ground, and that's how we work. And you guys have a great staff that come to us and advocate for things, and that's the way the process works. And I found out kind of the hard way. If you don't ask for it, there's no one that's going to be there saying, "Oh, take this and take this for that."
Yeah, talking about the bridge, it just reminds me, whenever we're traveling, our kids hold their breath when we go through a tunnel or, but you have to hold your breath when you go under that bridge just because, is it going to fall down? It's a different reason to hold your breath.
I'm going under it when I leave today, just one more time, and then I'm going to go under it. I'm going to take Senator Peterson, I'm going to take him over it, and I'm going to take him under it. So, but again, it just had to follow up on the question. If you will remember, I don't know if you were on the council a few years ago when they talked about the roundabout there at Bickford. We were talking about that. I investigated many collisions there as a state trooper. And I understand because we worked with your staff, the roundabout, it's fun going through there, and it feels so much safer. And I was not a big roundabout person, but I've come around quite a bit. Pardon the pun there.
You've come around. I love it.
Wah, wah.
I know. Not a good one. But
I think it's great. I love a dad joke.
So with the First Street Master Plan, we envision the First Street and the Second Street Master Plans coming together. I think the city does too. So many people, when they come to Snohomish, they think of First Street. And we want people to continue to experience First Street, but we want people to experience downtown Snohomish. And we would love to see a future where First Street, the side streets, Second Street are all connected in one kind of cohesive downtown community. And it draws people back time and time again because of the different types of experiences people can have here. And we appreciate the advocacy, the support at the state level, and whatever can be done to help Snohomish continue to preserve the beautiful past and help to bring kind of this future about where our downtown is strengthened really and enhanced for what will be generations to come. And that's what we see with the First Street Master Plan. And that's also what we see with, continuing advocacy for our downtown.
Well, I appreciate you advocating for it. And I'm hoping that when I'm walking around Thursday with the majority leader, I'm hoping maybe I'll run into you guys somewhere in the city.
Probably will.
I would love to.
Well, what time will you be down here?
I plan to be here. I plan to be here probably 10:45, 11 o'clock. Would love to say I'm going to start at City Hall, probably at 10:30 there. And I'd love to have you just to have him see some of those things because, he's the one who will ultimately reach out, and he's probably the second or third most powerful person in Olympia. And I would love to have you just maybe say hi to him and talk about those things. Just, it'll help all of us.
We'll be available for sure.
Good connection. Thank you.
Yeah.
You've mentioned a little bit about your years as, did you say state trooper?
State trooper, yes.
Yeah. 30 years? Over 30 years? Yeah, that's amazing. With that background in the role that you're serving now as a senator, how do you kind of keep small towns safe without kind of over-regulating local commerce?
So this is what I always tell people all the time. I said people not only want to be safe, they want to feel safe. They want to be safe in their homes, be safe on the streets, and they want their children to be safe in their schools. So, what I always say is that you hold people accountable, enforce the laws that are in place, and hold people accountable, and make sure that we have good, competent police officers serving in communities. I was really pleased to say, to go back and remember in 2012, when you guys had your own police department here, and I was the county sheriff, and the city staff came to me and they said they wanted to contract. Well, I don't call it contract. I call it partner. They wanted to partner with the sheriff's office. And during my tenure as county sheriff, we partnered with the city of Snohomish. There were a couple of members, not sure this is what they wanted to do. They came to me a few months later and said it was one of the best decisions that they had ever made. I think those are things we have to do. We have to have people be safe, feel safe, and know that our public safety professionals, I call them peace officers, are there to serve everybody in that community. And that's what I think you have here. We're not over-regulating anything. We're just simply holding people accountable. And that's what works very, very well. That is something that I've always seen work well in communities.
Yeah, I do think the partnership with the sheriff's department has been really beneficial for the city. And I mean, I wasn't here before that, but like just on our side of things, working with police department for events and keeping First Street feeling safe and welcoming, like you said, and you want it to feel safe for everybody.
No, I felt so good walking in the parade. You just felt, the guys weren't just there. I was in the military, and I remember we'd stand at parade rest. Yeah. They weren't just there standing at parade rest, watching people go by. They were saying hi, shaking hands, and that's what you want in a community.
Totally different experience.
It's a different experience. Yeah. You see it, you feel it. I always tell people, it's like hate and love. Sometimes you can't always see it, you can't always touch it, but you can always feel it.
Yeah.
That was my experience.
I like that.
Yep.
So we've asked you a lot of tough questions today, and thank you for answering them. And I know that we threw them at you kind of sight unseen.
Very fair.
I appreciate you
Good questions.
Being open and sharing with us. What are some of the things that you've been most proud of in your service to the 44th District?
I'm honestly proud of everything. I'm really, really proud of the people that I get to serve, the people that I get to serve with. I'm always proud when people come to Olympia and they will say, that's my senator or that's my representative. And I'm also proud to walk around and just have people recognize me and they'll talk. And that's what you get in districts because, it's not like I always say, not bashing the other Washington, but it's not like the other Washington where we really work to try and work together. But I'm really, really proud of just the honor and the privilege of serving as a representative. I know you are an elected official, and you have to feel that real sense of pride when you raise your right hand and get sworn in, and when people call you and ask you for something, and you can maybe make a few phone calls and get them some of the services that they need. That's what I'm really, really proud of.
Yeah, I think you should be proud of that, and also, like you said, wanting to know your district, and it's great if people recognize you as well.
Right.
But I think you and both Representative Berg do a really good job with that because before I was in this job or as a city council person, I knew both of you just through community connections. April Berg, I think, was through some connections I had in Edmonds through a health club.
She was on the school board over there too. Yeah.
So just because she has been connected into other things, and then people that have connections to her, and you share a lot of values with those that are in your life. And so if you share values with friends or community members or coworkers, and then they have ultimately had a connection with one of your representatives, it kind of establishes that level of trust.
Yeah.
And I think you are really good at making those connections, and people can trust you because they have worked with you and you've spent time listening to them.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. And I'll tell an old story. I'll make it as quick as I can. There's a great story about Franklin Delano Roosevelt. As we all know, he died on April 12th of 1945. And when they were bringing his body back by rail, they would drive through town after town after town. And they were going through one real small town. And as I understand the story, an elderly gentleman fell to his knees and another man helped him to his feet. And he had tears rolling down his face. And the man looked at him and he said, "Sir, I see you are crying. Did you know the president?" The gentleman took a handkerchief from his pocket, wiped his forehead, wiped his eyes, wiped his face, and he said, "No, sir, I did not know the president, but the president knew me." And that's what I try my absolute best to be every day. I try to be the person that maybe they don't know me, but I'm going to do my darn best to let them know that I know them. And that's by talking, because I think we have to talk to each other. We have to stop, take the time and talk to each other and get to know each other. And that's the way, that's what we should do as elected officials. Not just wait until we're running for office every 2 years, every 4 years. Get out there and get to know the community every single day.
Yeah. Well, and I think one thing that we've really talked about a lot today is that it really does take everybody contributing, and you can't wait for someone else to just do something for you.
Right.
You have to advocate. But having someone accessible is important. You don't have to have all the answers or be the expert, like we talked about, but being accessible and at least making those connections so that those of us who do have certain things that are really important to us can bring it to the right place and maybe get some momentum behind it, or at least know where to go with it.
And I really want to thank you for that. I want to thank you, Ken. But I also want you to know that as elected officials, your priorities are our priorities. And what I mean by that is, you talked about, I didn't know a lot about this, but I'm going to learn more about the issues that you talked about. Those are your priorities. They are going to be our priorities. And that's what we should be doing as your representatives, as your senators, as your congressperson. That's what we should strive to do.
Well, I think so much can happen through conversation, like saying yes to being on a podcast. It's a big deal.
I was looking forward to this, honestly. You and I talked about trying to come home during the weekends, and I said, my goodness, I get out of Olympia, and I was so exhausted by the time I drive through that traffic at night to try and come out.
I totally understand. And I really appreciated that you texted me. I was telling Ken that. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to not be the initiator. Yeah. I feel like in so many relationships, I'm always the one reaching out. I was like, John actually texted me this on Friday. That's so nice that you were still thinking about it. And that really does mean a lot.
I don't mind going to meet people. There's a great story that also where, politicians like to show up at events and the room is packed and their name is called. They'll say, I didn't know I was going to speak today. And then they step up there and take a prepared speech and talk for 45 minutes. So I really wasn't going to say anything, but no, I looked forward to doing this, and thank you for inviting me. I mean it sincerely.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And we do have one last question to wrap up the podcast. We ask everybody this. Can you please describe your perfect day in Snohomish?
Oh my goodness. I have to tell you this. My perfect day, and I told you that I played the trombone in high school, so I'm not trying to toot my own horn here at this event. My perfect day, I think, was when I marched in the Pride Parade. I just could not believe some of the things, the people that I met. Can I just share a quick story with you?
Totally. We'd love to hear it.
First Amendment rights you can do and say, as long as you don't harm anyone. But I remember a guy wasn't being disruptive, but he had a card that he put in a lady's face, and she looked to be in her 80s, and he put it in her face. And I remember her reading the card, and she looked at the card, took about 10 seconds to look at the card, and then she looked at him, and all she said was, I think I'm better than that. Mm. And he looked at her and held his card down like this. She wasn't disrespectful. Mm. She was as polite as could be, but whatever he had on his card was just something that she probably did not need to see. Yeah. And all she said was, I think I'm better than that. And it moved me. And that was my perfect day. Mm. It might not be the perfect day for many people, but that was my perfect day.
It was meaningful for you.
I went over, I remember my feet were hurting, my legs were a little sore, and I remember just marching with so much energy going from side to side. So sometimes a perfect day for somebody might not be the same perfect day for others. So that was my perfect day.
Yeah, that was great. Was that the inaugural Pride Parade?
No, that was number 2.
Number 2, so last year. Yeah. Yep. And you were here again this year?
I was here. I haven't missed one yet. I don't plan on missing one.
Well, we hope to keep bringing it for you.
I hope we get to do it again.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming to Snohomish Pride. I love that was one of your perfect days. Yeah. That's really beautiful.
I take a lot of pride in saying that too.
Yeah. Well, it's meaningful. Thank you. And thank you for being here with us today. We really appreciate your time. I appreciate that you reached out to make sure that it happened. That really did mean a lot. And we're excited to keep talking with you and
let's do
follow up on some things today. And maybe we'll have you back again.
Anytime.
Snohomish Storytellers, brought to you by the Historic Downtown Snohomish Association, produced by Red Trucks.